6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Lal Malarachi and read by Lavani Vijayatunga. First, take a look at the headlines. The new electricity bill will be submitted to the Parliament within the next month. Interested parties are able to submit their views in this connection until next Wednesday. The Bribery Commission says that there is an increase in the lodging of complaints before the Commission this year. A shipment of eggs to arrive today. An all-night period chanting ceremony to invoke blessings for the new year will be held at the historic Jayashree Mahabodhi premises. A special traffic plan is scheduled to be implemented in Colombo today. In news overseas, UN says displays Gazans living in the open. And in sports news, Sri Lanka Cricket announced its final squad for both the ODI and the T20I against visiting Zimbabwe. Those are the headlines, and now let's move on to the details of the local news. The new electricity bill, which was prepared with the aim of streamlining the activities of the Ceylon Electricity Board and providing an efficient and excellent service to the consumers, will be submitted to the Parliament within next month, Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara said. The report on the restructuring of the CEB and the proposal related to the new Electricity Act was presented to the Cabinet for approval. Accordingly, steps will be taken to gazette and submit the new proposed Electricity Act to the Parliament within the next month. General public and the interested parties are able to submit their views in this connection until next Wednesday. The Bribery Commission says that there is an increase in the lodging of complaints before the Commission this year when compared to the previous year. Last year, there were 2,512 complaints. However, during the first 11 months of this year alone, the Commission has received 3,004 complaints. It is a 30% growth compared to the previous year. Out of them, 2,339 complaints have been directed to the relevant committees for investigations. During the first 11 months of this year, legal action has been taken against 248 persons. All sluice gates of the Parakrama Samudra were opened by 2 feet due to the incessant rain experienced in the Polonnaruwa district during the past 2 days. The police said the traffic between Gallala and Mannampitiya on the Polonnaruwa-Badikalu road was hampered due to the inclement weather in the area yesterday. Somawathiya Sekara premises is under water by 2 feet. Dry rations for the people living in the area have been supplied by boats. The National Building Research Organization has issued a pre-landslide warning to 5 districts in the island. Accordingly, it will be effective to the Badulla, Monragala, Kandy, Nuwara Eliya and Mathale districts until today. This is the news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. And we continue with more local news. A shipment of another stock of 6 million eggs will arrive from India today, the Sri Lanka State Trading General Corporation said. Corporation's chairman, Asri Valisundara, said the new stock of eggs will be released to the Satosa outlets countrywide for retail sales. Meanwhile, the All-Island Egg Producers Association's president, Sarath Ratnayaka, said they would be able to sell eggs at a price between 30 to 35 rupees each in the local market during the next few months, and the new VAT will not affect the prices. The prices of eggs in the local market went up to around 65 rupees each. It was less than 50 rupees at the economic centres during the past week, and it will be less than 45 rupees now. People throughout the island are now getting ready to welcome the new year, and many religious places are full of devotees to receive blessings for the new year. An all-night period chanting ceremony to invoke blessings for the new year 2024 for the country and the people will be held at the historic Jayashree Mahabodhi premises. It will be broadcast through the Sinhala National and the Rajarata services of the SLBC from 9:30 p.m. today. Another all-night period chanting ceremony will be held at the Katharagama Kirivihara premises today. It has been organized by the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. And to conclude the local news, the headlines once again. The new electricity bill will be submitted to the Parliament within next month, and the interested parties are able to submit their views in this connection until next Wednesday. The Bribery Commission says that there is an increase in the lodging of complaints before the Commission this year. Another shipment of eggs to arrive today. An all-night period chanting ceremony to invoke blessings for the new year will be held at the historic Jayashree Mahabodhi premises. A special traffic plan is scheduled to be implemented in Colombo today. And that was the local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Veda.
The main news story for this morning: Saudi Arabia has ranked first in providing work opportunities to Sri Lankan expats in the year 2023, as more than 63,000 of them found employment in the kingdom. Annually, more than 200,000 migrant workers leave Sri Lanka to work abroad. They are the main source of forex for the country, which since last year has gripped by its worst ever financial crisis. Sri Lanka's ambassador to Saudi Arabia, PM Amza, estimated that in the year 2023, remittances amounted to over $7 billion, of which a significant portion was contributed by the expat workers in the kingdom. During the year 2023, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has become the #1 country, generating 63,000 employment opportunities for Sri Lankans, he said. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Veda.
This is Watchlight.
A special traffic plan is scheduled to be implemented in Colombo today in view of the dawn of the new year. Accordingly, several roads, including a section of the Gaul Road, Janadipati Mawatha, Bank of Ceylon Mawatha, Lotus Road and Nava Mawatha, will be made one-way from 5 p.m. today, this New Year's Eve. Police spokesperson SSP Nihal Thaldua says that the opposite lanes will be open from Kollipiria Junction to Golface Roundabout, while the lanes from Golface Roundabout to the Galadari Roundabout will be one-way, with an exception near the Presidential Secretariat. Parking lots have also been allocated at the public vehicle parking lots. SSP Thaldua also called upon motorists to inform an officer on duty if they encounter any problem. And that came to you in Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
Headlines of the World News: UN says displaced Gazans living in the open. Ukrainian strikes kills 14 in Russia border city. Baby dance in Lima makes public debut. Those were the headlines, and now let's move on to the details of the world news. Many displaced Gazans are living in the open and in the parks. Juliet Thoma of the UN Relief Agency for Palestinian Refugees has told the BBC. According to the UN's humanitarian officer, at least 100,000 people have fled to Rafah, which borders Egypt in Gaza's south, in recent days. UN Relief Agency's Ms. Thomas said the UN is being authorized to bring in limited assistance, but Gaza's humanitarian needs, she said, have massively grown. Ukraine has carried out a series of deadly strikes on targets in the southwest Russia over the past 24 hours, according to Russian officials. The Russian Emergency Ministry says 14 people, including 2 children, have been killed and dozens of others injured in the city of Belgorod. A Ukrainian security source has confirmed to the BBC that Kiev fired around 70 drones at Russian military targets and blamed Russian air defenses for fragments of falling in the Belgorod. The attack appears to be one of the deadliest strikes on Russia during the war so far. Moscow has repeatedly accused Ukraine of drone strikes on its territory. The Ukraine has not claimed responsibility for this. A critically endangered baby cockerel, Safika, also known as Dancy Limo, has made its first public appearance in the Chester Zoo. The new arrival was born on the 21st of September to parents Beatrice, age 11, and Elliot, age 10, following a 5-month pregnancy. Keepers have not yet ascertained its sex. The species is only found on Madagascar, and it is at the risk due to widespread of deforestation. And that was the world news.
Development News.
In development news, construction work on the new maternity hospital at the Karapitiya Hospital in Gaul is nearing completion. The 6-storied new building complex will provide treatment for 600 residential patients. It includes 6 modernized surgical units. The government has spent more than 8 billion rupees on this project. That was the development news. Sports news coming up.
Moving on with sports news.
Sri Lanka Cricket announced its final squads for both the ODI and T20I for the upcoming ODI and T20 series against Zimbabwe. Angelo Matthews, Bhanuka Rajapaksa and Binura Fernando have been selected for the Sri Lanka preliminary squad for the upcoming three-match T20 series against Zimbabwe. The Zimbabwean team is set to tour Sri Lanka in the early January for an ODI and T20I series. The 22-member Sri Lankan squad for the T20 tournament has been finalized and has received the approval from Sports Minister Harin Fernando. Banidhu Hasuranga will lead the T20 squad while Charit Asalanka as the vice-captain. Angelo Matthews makes a return to the Sri Lankan T20 squad after last featuring in 2021. Additionally, Bhanuka Rajapaksa, Binura Fernando and Akila Dhananjaya have also been included in the T20 squad. Meanwhile, Kusal Mendes will lead the ODI squad with Charit Asalanka as the vice-captain. That was the sports news. Business news coming up.
On the first day of the new year 2024, when you make your first deposit in any SPI, you will receive a token gift. May this new year bring you happiness, joy, and abundance of savings. National Savings Bank.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Cake sales in the local market have dropped to 25% during the festive season due to lack of eggs for making cakes, the All Ceylon Bakery Owners Association said. The association's chairman, N.K. Javardhana, said that though they had hoped for at least 50% of the usual sale of cakes, it had dropped to 25%. That was the business news. Economic news follows.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
On the first day of the new year 2024, when you make your first deposit in any SPI, you will receive a token gift. May this new year bring you happiness, joy, and abundance of savings. National Savings Bank.
And now in economic news.
The headline inflation, as measured by the year-on-year change in the Colombo Consumers Price Index, rose to 4% in December 2023 from 3.4% in November 2023. This increase in the headline inflation is mostly in line with the projections envisaged by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka in November 2023. After 5 months of continuous deflation, the food category recorded an inflation of 0.3% in December from 3.6% deflation recorded in November 2023. That was the economic news and the weather report to conclude.
Weather report.
And finally, the weather report. Showers or thunder showers will occur at times in the eastern and Nuva provinces and in the Polonnaruwa, Matale, Nure Eliya and Hambantota districts. Fairly heavy showers, about 75 millimeters, are likely at some places. Several spells of showers will occur in the northern province and in the Anuradhapura and Kandy districts. Showers or thunder showers may occur at several places elsewhere in the island after 2 p.m. Fairly strong winds, about 40 km per hour, can be expected at times in the eastern slopes of the Central Hills and in the northern, north-central, northwestern, eastern, Uva and southern provinces. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the Sabaragamuwa, western and central provinces during the morning hours. And before we conclude this bulletin, let's get back to the headlines once again. The new electricity bill will be submitted to the Parliament within the next month, and the interested parties are able to submit their views in this connection until next Wednesday. The Bribery Commission says that there is an increase in the lodging of complaints before the Commission this year. Another shipment of eggs will arrive today. An all-night period chanting ceremony to invoke blessings for the new year will be held at the historic Jayashree Mahabodhi premises. A special traffic plan is scheduled to be implemented in Colombo today. In news overseas, the UN says displaced Gazans living in the open. And in sports news, Sri Lanka Cricket announced its final squad for both the ODI and T20I against the visiting Zimbabwe team. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news. And now, before I hand over to the Sunday morning host who is sitting in today, Sonal, let me wish Sonal all the very best for the new year, and dear listeners, to you too.